Good evening, folks, and welcome to the season finale episode of Backmarker Battle's Phoenix Review. I'm your host, Starting Park Arkley Evans. Welcome to tonight's show. Backmarker Battles has been a fun thing throughout this entire season, talking about the battles that usually don't get talked about, on the TV broadcasts, and, maybe gives a little bit more reason why some of these lower budget teams show up. That was the goal for Backmarker Battles, and I'm proud to say after 2 years of doing this, the response to it's been good. We've had a lot of fan support from Backmarker Battles, and it's great to see. It's great to see that there's other people who are interested in hearing about the battles that maybe aren't, like I said, not talked about enough and are talked about more behind the sport. We'll get in through my little intro, of course, and then we'll get right into it. Not going to be a super long episode tonight, but I still thank everyone who tunes in, of course, live right now, and who will tune in after, of course, we go off the air. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media. Twitter at Starting Park Car, Colby Evans. Like and subscribe to the channel. We just hit 566 stubs, which, of course, we're trying to get to that ever-elusive 1,000. NASCAR man, Brock Beard. Check out theracingexperts.com. All my friends and partners, they are good friends of the show. So let's get right into it, shall we? So first off, we will start with the truck race from Phoenix. Now, I've been a little critical on the truck series this season. I don't think every race has obviously been a banger. I think there are some weekends where even the ARCA race is a little bit better than the truck race. That doesn't happen every time, but very few times. But I think the truck series, a track like this fits them for Phoenix. Good track, good facility. Of course, it's always kind of hard to pass, but that's kind of been the norm for these Phoenix truck races. Still an opinion out there. I prefer the old Phoenix. For a lot of our listeners, I don't even know if some of them have watched NASCAR back when Phoenix had the older layout. I much preferred Phoenix with the older layout, but, they got those restarts, and that's kind of what matters. We only had 35 trucks for this race. There were going to be no DNQs. Nobody had to worry about, pushing it too hard in qualifying. Everybody could run safe speeds. And, yeah, it really was no problem for them. Nobody had to worry about qualifying, so don't really have to go over that. The only real notable parts in the race, and not many cars fell out. The 20 of Armani Williams, he and the 33 of Keith McGee crashed literally while running for 34th. Depending on who you go by, I was listening to the 33's radio during the crash. He blamed the 20, whereas some people who were actually there and seen the crash in the grandstands will say that it was actually the 20's fault, whereas actually the 33's fault getting into the 20. So that kind of goes both ways. Kind of a tough way to end the season for the 20 truck of Young's Motorsports. It's definitely been a rough year for Young's Motorsports, I would say. And I think the biggest problem is they just don't have a good driver and crew chief combo. That's just my opinion. I like Spencer Boyd, but even in this race, Spencer Boyd was literally he was so slow. He got parked for going too slow. I'm a big Spencer Boyd fan, but at some point, you got to make an exception of, we got to cut this guy. I know he brings the money, but at the end of the day, man, you're not going to gain anything as an organization with a guy that's going to be running so slow all the time. And I'm listening to their crew chief. I want to be sympathetic, but at the point as though crew chief saying we're running just fine, and I just want to be like, no, you're not. You're the slowest car on the track, or truck on the track. He eventually got parked. Out of all the trucks, 30 of the 35 trucks ended up finishing the race. As for the bonus battle in the truck series, the owner points, unfortunately, the 56 of Hill Motorsports could not get it. They kind of struggled in the race, finishing only 27th, whereas the 5 truck for Tyler actually got a pretty good finish in 23rd. But 20th place went to the 02 of Young's Motorsports. So at least, I guess you could say one positive for Young's Motorsports is they were in that coveted top 20 at least, but pretty much I would call it the only positive for Young's Motorsports throughout this whole season. As for the race itself, I thought it was okay. Wasn't anything special. And I look into 2023, the truck series is going to be, in my opinion, one of the most different series we've seen in a long time. So many new different manufacturer changes, so many new drivers. The schedule's kind of different too. I mean, you could say almost reset for the truck series, like a real refresh, new stuff that we have not seen in the truck series in quite a few couple years. We got KBM going to Chevrolet with Jack Wood and Chase Purdy. With all due respect, I don't like that, because with all due respect to Chase Purdy and Jack Wood, they haven't done, well, no pun intended, they haven't done jack this season. I think if anything, what we really saw is Austin Hill and Brett Moffitt really got the most out of those Hattori trucks. And when you don't put a driver that can really get the most out of those trucks, it shows that the Hattori team is nothing more than a mid-pack team. And that's no dig at them. That's just kind of how they are. I know they have TRE support, but at the end of the day, they're just not going to go up there and beat them. Especially with all due respect to Tyler Ankrum. Ankrum just has not felt the same since his DGR days. Tyler Ankrum has not felt the same since his DGR days. And while I praised Chase Purdy in the ARCA series, ever since Chase has moved up to the truck series, he just hasn't done anything. And while Jack Wood was solid in ARCA, and even was solid in his first few truck starts, this season, in my opinion, has just been nothing but disasters. DNFs to bad runs. I mean, you want to be sympathetic at the same time, but you look at the results this season. You can't just tell me it's all bad luck for Jack Wood. That is a GMS truck. His teammate won a race and made the playoffs. And there's Jack Wood, and I don't think, is Jack Wood the 24 truck? The 24 truck for GMS did not even finish top 25 in points. That, in my opinion, is a real letdown. The 24 truck for GMS did not even finish top 25 in points. So, yeah, I don't know how KBM's going to do next year, but the one thing that Jack Wood and Chase Purdy bring is that ever-elusive funding. But can definitely say if KBM gets a win next year, I'll be genuinely shocked. I really will. They also mentioned that they will not be fielding an ARCA team. But, man, I tell you, that was just really shocking by KBM. I think there was a lot better candidates out there. I really wish Nick Sanchez. I know Nick Sanchez is going to be driving for Rev Racing's truck team as kind of a Chevrolet KBM affiliate team. But, and also in my opinion, I wish Nick Sanchez had gotten the 48 car over Parker Kligerman. I love Parker Kligerman to death, but at the same time, Nick Sanchez really showed this season in his part-time starts in the 48 car that, in my opinion, he deserved that 48 car way more than Parker Kligerman did. But hey, and nonetheless, it's still great to see Parker get another ride. It is. But I think Nick Sanchez would have done a lot. We'll just see where we are next point, at this point next season, and maybe we'll get to see if Sanchez maybe really would have done better. But yeah, KBM moving to there. Next changes I could see is Will Neese downsize. I think that would be massively beneficial. Massively beneficial. The 44 truck, Chris Wright, that truck just did nothing all year. Once Chris Wright left the team, they were just trying to fill the drivers with Ross Chastain, Chad Chastain, other select drivers, and the truck didn't even run the last race. I think Ross Chastain did the most that he could of that 44 truck, but I think it really shows just how talented Ross Chastain was and how he performed with the Nice equipment. But then you look at, just what Chris Wright did. He wrecked almost every single race. Dean Thompson, he wrecked a lot and just didn't have the best runs. And same with Lawless Allen. I don't know if they were getting the same equipment as that 42 truck, but we were, critical on Carson Hocevar in last night's ARCA podcast. And I think this season, a lot of people, we talked about, maybe a lot of people have lost respect for Carson Hocevar. And, he doesn't have necessarily a lot of funding behind him. And where does he go? Does Carson stay with Nice again? And where does Nice improve as an organization? Would downsizing improve that organization? I don't know. I feel like you can only sell off so much equipment or maybe downsize and focus, but I don't think it would still lead that team to a necessarily a winning organization. Just a lot more changes than that. Also, you got Tricon Garage, DGR going from Ford back to Toyota. The 62 truck for Chris Larson, it might not run full time, but that truck's expected to run a big part-time schedule, more than likely with maybe Lane Riggs and a couple of other drivers. Tyler Ankrum is expected to return to Shigi Hattori's team again. The 61 team, like we said, with Chase Purdy going over to KBM. Now that 61 truck is open, but it also wouldn't shock me if we don't see that 61 team return, as that team was pretty much only built because of Chase Purdy's funding. Some people in the chat saying Parker Kligerman, I honestly disagree. He deserved it more. He had been showing out way too much. And I agree. I'm not trying to diss Parker on that. I like Parker Kligerman a lot. I've been a fan of Parker Kligerman since his Cunningham Motorsports days in the ARCA series. Now, I agree. After his 2013 KBM ride, he kind of got shafted for the next 9 years. He really never got anything special. And the equipment that he drove, he definitely got the most out of. I'm not denying that he also doesn't deserve that 48 car, but I'll just say, in my opinion, I was hoping Sanchez would get the 48 over him, but I agree. I think it's great to see what Parker can do. We know that car's a winning ride, and I think Parker could easily get that car in victory lane next year. Knapford 23 fan, Knapford fan 23, sorry, get your name right. 61 was confirmed to return. Great. That's actually good to hear that the 61 will return. I'm quite curious to see who will drive it. There's some people in the ARCA series I could see moving up. I don't know about a full-time basis. Maybe we'll see that 61 be a part-time, not part-time, but part-time drivers rotating. But yeah, the truck series will look a lot different. The battles obviously were a lot different. But yeah, as we move on to the Xfinity series, I hope Riggs splits the 61 and the 62. Riggs splits the 61 and 62. I could see that, but at the same time, with even though they're both Toyota-backed teams, the 61 to 62 are two different organizations, and a lot of the times those organizations don't like to share drivers. Yes, I agree. Lane Riggs does deserve a full-time truck ride. He really brought it to the championship contenders and the Truck Series field early in that truck race. Unfortunately, he just kind of fell through the field, and the problem I have with Phoenix is once you get kind of back in the field, unless you're a super, super competitive truck, if you're stuck in 20th place at Phoenix, you're pretty much going to finish there unless you just have an absolute muscle truck. So, yeah. But, yeah, so that's kind of the truck series. Again, not the best race, but, that's kind of what we expected. Zane Smith, great to see a guy like Zane Smith get the championship. It would be great to see him return next season. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes back-to-back at all. And it's great to hear that he'll be at the Daytona 500 as well. Maybe Max – I didn't even think about that. Max Gutierrez, he would be a good candidate for the 61. I know he's got good backing from Tough Built. They've sponsored full ARCA East seasons. I don't know if they have the funding, though, to sponsor a full truck series operation, but definitely I could see that team sponsoring most of it. But yeah, so that was kind of the truck series. Lots of changes coming in 2023. I don't think we'll see any problems with short fields. I see a lot of new teams developing, a lot of more sponsorship coming into the sport as well, which is always good to see. We got Craftsman coming back, and I just expect great things as usual from the truck series. So that's kind of the truck series wrapped up for Backmarker Battles. The one thing I did want to go over before we move on to Xfinity. So the truck series at Daytona usually brings a lot of trucks. Last couple years, it's been well over 40. This next year, I expect no different. I would predict 45 trucks for Daytona next year. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all. A lot of part-time teams will come out, maybe like Norm, Jennifer, FDNY. They'll be there. The 84 team, Clay Greenfield, they'll be there. G2G will be there. And the one thing I just wanted to talk about is some trucks that might need to look at maybe purchasing some owner points. The lowest full-time truck that attempted, we'll say about 90% of the season, was the 43 for Rayon Brothers Racing. That truck was only 37th in the points. The 33 truck was 33rd in points. So, we've definitely seen the Rayon trucks have been kind of the main back markers for the truck series this season. They don't have usually a lot of speed at those plate races. They were the two slowest trucks, or two of the slowest trucks at Talladega. So, if I'm looking at Daytona, you either got to improve the speed of your trucks, or they might be looking at another double DNQ, because I know that double DNQ at Talladega set them back a lot. And, again, that's not a dig at them. but they usually rely on owner points to make those races at Daytona. And that going into next year, they don't have them. They don't have those precious owner points unless they go out there and purchase owner points from a different truck team, which more than likely, considering how many changes we're going to be seeing this season, looks like there will be some owner points definitely up for grabs for purchase or swapping, maybe come around December and January. And then we'll hear about that once the Speed Week comes forward. So with that, we move on to Xfinity. Obviously, the controversial himself, Ty Gibbs, winning the championship. And then unfortunately, the tragedy of the family, man, R.I.P. Coy Gibbs. God, that just sucks. I mean, you love to hate Ty Gibbs, but at the same time, you just got to you have no idea what he's going through. And to just see all that celebration, watch the post-race interview with Ty and Coy, and then just to, wake up the next morning and hear and I was just hearing rumors. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe it up until the announcement, because I'm like, I hope he pulls through. Maybe something changed, but unfortunately we got that news. And 49, man, JD at 49, Coy at 49. That's just too young, man. Way, way too young. When we got race car drivers still driving in their mid to late 80s, and nowadays, just 49 is just way, way too young. It's such a shame, man. They were good people. The Gibbs family are good people, and just family tragedy in racing, unfortunately, just happens way too often, and it really sucks. It really sucks for everyone at JGR, but unfortunately, all life does is just move on. It's just kind of the sad reality. But the Xfinity Series Championship happened. We had 39 cars here for 38 spots, one DNQ. No real trouble for a lot of backmarker teams looking to make the show. We knew it was either going to be either one of the BJ McLeod entries, the 77, the 92, or the 13. Those were going to be one of the DNQs of this race. And surprisingly, I'll give definitely a shout out to Dawson Cram. I did not expect Dawson to actually qualify in. I had predicted him as the lone DNQ. And to my actual surprise, Dawson actually managed to get that 13 car in show on time, beating the 92. The 92 of Alex LeBay, he looked like he was going to be going home. He actually made the show on time, just barely, 33rd on the final spot bubble. Poor Matt Mills. It's been a rough season for Matt Mills. He has not run as many races as he used to. He spun in practice. He spun around in practice. Didn't hit anything, but he messed up the splitter pretty well. And obviously, we're all the way out west, so BJ McLeod Motorsports doesn't have a backup car. So the only thing you can pretty much do is try to fix it the best you can and go out there and hope you make the show on owner points. And it looked like they were, but then one more car went slower than the 92, and that knocked the 5 out. It has been I would say, a horrible year for BJ McLeod Motorsports. And I love BJ. I love his team. But to see where they started this season with 3 full-time drivers and 3 full-time sponsors, and to see where they are now, it's just really sad. It really is sad. And all 3 of the cars suffered DNQs this year. The 55 car suffered a DNQ. The 78 suffered, I think, 4 DNQs. The 5 suffered 1 DNQ. And the 99, I think, suffered, 1 as well. So, I love BJ McLeod. He's one of my all-time favorites in the sport right now. But at the same time, man, where is this team going? Now, I know they announced Garrett Smithley for the team in 2023, and I think that's a great pickup. If there's one guy that can really get the most out of that equipment, it is Garrett Smithley, for sure. But if it's just the 78, I hope it stays that way. If Matt Mills does come back, if we see the 5 car do come back, I see it as a part-time, not a part-time entry, but part-time driver rotation car again. And maybe that's where the team needs to be. Have 1 car for part-time driver rotations and have 1 specific full-time car. Maybe that would be able to set the team on a better standard. But, man, BJ McLeod Motorsports really, really struggled this season. And it was really sad to see, because this team, they showed a lot of improvement from, their debut in 16 and 17. I would say from 2018 to 2020, BJ McLeod Motorsports showed massive, massive improvement. But since 2021 and 2020, I think we've actually seen a digression, and especially this year, we have seen the digression of BJ McLeod Motorsports, as both of their cars, I don't think either or any BJ McLeod Motorsports car was actually inside the top 30 10K bonus literally the entire year. I know the 78 was not, the 99 was never, even though that car only ran like the first 10 races full-time, then ran part-time after that. But none of the BJ McLeod cars, to my knowledge, were actually in the top 30 10K bonus for this entire season. Maybe the first 3 races, I'd have to look at last year's points, but yeah, not getting that top 30 10K bonus also hurt the team, and it was just bad luck, even with BJ, no sponsorship. Stephon Parsons should never been let go last minute. I don't think it was necessarily let go. I think it was just a parting of ways by the organization, especially with the sponsorship that Stephon had. I don't want to say, to be right, I think Stephon leaving, though, was good for him, because we know the Alpha Prime cars are definitely a step up than the BJ McLeod cars, and I think it really gave Stephon a chance to show what he's really made of, and it got himself a lot of publicity. His top 10 run at Bristol and his was going to be top 15 finish at Homestead until he got crashed out, and his continuous good runs. Where do you think Parsons goes next year? I just stays with Alpha Prime again. Tommy Joe, they need to keep Stephon there. He's a great driver. I've always known Stephon had the talent, but I always knew Stephon had the talent. He just needed the right ride, and still does. I mean, I love Tommy Joe Martins, but his team, they're still not perfect. They need not in terms of like bad equipment. They're just not a winning team. That's no dig at them. That's just the truth. They are not a winning team. And I think if you put Stephon in a JRM car, he would smoke the field. I firmly believe that. If he can do what he can do in a Alpha Prime car, put him in a JRM car, or put him even just the big machine type car. See what he could do. But yeah, we had 38 cars. Only 2 cars fell out. The 77 of Dylan Bassett, despite a great qualifying effort in 12th, quickly fell back to the field. He had an engine failure late in the race. The 08 of Brandon Brown, that team never really got out of the box. How many laps into the race did they blow a tire? 31 laps in. The car looked like it was killed for the day, but he managed to get it back to the pits. They had to go back to the garage to fix some suspension parts. Were able to get the car back out, only passed the 77, then went back to the garage to finish the day. Joe Graff Jr. had a long day as well. Backup car, which, I don't know if it was really set up and ready for Phoenix. He was just pretty much slow all weekend. It was just kind of a get-through race for them. Other cars that struggled, the 78 for BJ McLeod struggled for speed. Both MBM entries, MBM had kind of struggled with engine failures in these last couple races. So you could see maybe it was just trying to get through race for them just to kind of get into next year. Some other back markers that did kind of struggle. The 6 of Brennan Poole with the Eric E-Step sponsorship. He actually did not run as good as I thought he would. He only ran 29th. He did have some damage on the car that didn't help either. Stephon, he only ran 28th. I would say that's kind of a surprising run. But I do think that something contributed to that. I don't think he went that many laps down, just that one lap down just based off of that. Jeremy Clements, he had a flat motor the entire race. It was not down a cylinder. It was just underpowered. I don't know what the difference is kind of there. But if you listen to the radio, he complained multiple times during the race that the car he just didn't feel like the car had enough power in it. It's not necessarily that they were down a cylinder. And, one of my fellow friends, Brockbeard, who was there, he continued to say that the 51 car sounded either flat or like it was down a cylinder, but it wasn't. It was not down a cylinder based off of his lap times. It just didn't sound very good. And it was clear that the longer the race was going, the more that 51 car continued to fall. And it did. It fell all the way down to 27th. There was no damage to the car either. I think it was just one of those days where maybe it was just a bad motor. And keep in mind, they still build their own motors. So the unfortunate part is whatever happened to the car was their fault. But we love Jeremy Clements here, and still happy that they were able to get that win at Daytona, getting the top 20 drivers and owners bonus. That extra $160,000 really goes a long way for that organization. So I'm happy for them nonetheless. There was damage. Okay, so there was damage to the car. I don't know if that tape on the nose would cause him to go that slow, because he had still been complaining about under power almost the entire race. But I guess there was damage to the car. And the one weird part about Phoenix is, despite it being a small track, it is very, very aero dependent. Even the slightest bit of damage at Phoenix will absolutely kill your day, which is weird because you wouldn't think that at a track like Phoenix. But I think it's just because of the sweeping corners that are at that track. You really need that downforce to really get through those corners at a high rate of speed. The few backmarkers that actually had somewhat decent days, Bailey Curry up in 19th. Bailey always does a great job for JD Motorsports. Raja Caruth in 17th for Tommy Joe in the Alpha Prime. Josh Williams 15th, another great run out of him. Kyle Weatherman, no bumper, finished 14th. And that's kind of it. Everyone else and above is kind of with good teams. So a couple of backmarkers snuck their way in there. The points battles, like I said, the top 30 10K bonus had quite a few cars going after it. With the 0H troubles early in the race, that opportunity allowed some other cars to sneak in. And the final cars, they were able to sneak in for that top 30 10K bonus going into next year. The final two spots went to the 34 for Jesse Iwuji Motorsports and the 35 of Emerling Gase Motorsports, which means that those cars are now locked into the top 30 for the first 3 races of 2023. That is how the Xfinity Series owner points work. So for those teams, that is a guaranteed extra $30,000 for those organizations. And that goes a long way for tire money, travel expenses, and other related racing products. So definitely a big get for those organizations to get that extra 30 grand. The teams that did miss out, the 08 car was 31st. Both MBM entries outside the top 30. The 91, the 6, and both of the BJ McLeod cars are the notable full-time entries that did not crack the top 30. Other notable news out of JD Motorsports, Gary Keller, who apparently was not affiliated with the organization this season, that relationship has ended, and Gary Keller will move over to Mike Harmon Racing in 2023, and it'll simply be renamed Mike Harmon Racing with Gary Keller. So interesting news out of there. I don't know what that means for JD Motorsports. Johnny Davis has been in the sport for a long time. We know Ryan Vargas will not be with the team next year. So, if I'm JD Motorsports and you need to find a good driver, Brennan Poole's your guy. In my opinion, if they need a driver, even without a sponsor, I think Brennan Poole is absolutely your guy, because he will take a car that has low tires and no sponsorship, and he can still manage to get a top 25 out of it on most tracks. So if I'm JD Motorsports, I would try to get Brennan Poole for next year. But tell you, for a team that's going back to 3 cars next season, so far it doesn't look very good for JD Motorsports. I'm curious where this third car is going to be. Is it going to be the return of the 01, the 0? It's weird to see where JD Motorsports was just a couple of years ago running 4 full-time cars, and here they are now down to 2, and then we're going to go back up to 3, and a couple of drivers have left. So, you talk about another team that's going to have a big shakeup next season, it will be JD Motorsports. And I just got to say, where does Ryan Vargas go next season? There's not many. The rumors that he had sponsorship for JD Motorsports, but he just couldn't find enough sponsorship for the entire season. So where does he go next year? I could maybe BJ McLeod maybe goes to Alpha Prime for a couple races. I don't know where he's going to go next year, but Ryan says he's definitely going to try his best to get into another car next year. That's for sure. The other important bonus right there, well, actually another bonus we were going to talk about was the 34 for Jesse Iwuji Motorsports. Where does Kyle Weatherman go next year? Now, obviously, the plan coming into the season was never to have Kyle Weatherman in that 34 car. That was never the plan from the beginning. The plan from the beginning was to have Jesse Iwuji, I believe, drive the full season. He drove at Daytona, did okay, got a respectable 29th, and then just had a really, really bad West Coast swing. Bad runs at Fontana, bad run at Las Vegas, and a DNQ at Phoenix. With when then they tried to bring in Jesse Little to qualify the car in the show, and he couldn't do it. And then they brought in Kyle Weatherman, and Kyle Weatherman single-handedly took that team from 38th in the owner's points all the way up to 29th. And what do they do? At the end of the day, you gotta pay Kyle Weatherman to, drive that car. My solution is, what you want to do is run Jesse part-time. I know we all know Jesse wants to drive the car, but in my opinion, for Daytona, you can have Jesse run the 34, but I think what you should also have do is run Kyle Weatherman in the 43. Run Kyle Weatherman in the 43, and I would say, because the 43 car, I believe, is open in the Xfinity Series, I'm not saying run 2 full-time cars, but run a part-time entry. And what I mean by that is you can have maybe have the 43 or a second numbered car run for Jesse Iwuji Motorsports, and then you have Jesse run the car, but you still have Kyle Weatherman running in a second part-time car that he's going to get in the show for full season points. That way Jesse can get his races in, knowing he'll be in the show, and Kyle Weatherman can run not necessarily for the championship, but maybe for the driver's bonus and just get himself higher in points. I don't know if they're going to go that route next season, but Jesse Iwuji Motorsports, they got themselves a good spot next year for Daytona, a good owner's point position. It'll just be interesting to see, will Kyle Weatherman return to the organization, or will he be just out of a ride once again? Because this deal was not scheduled at February. This deal was Jesse was supposed to run full time. It'll be interesting to see how this team goes, but obviously we all want Kyle Weatherman in that 34 car for sure. Going up to the top 20 series bonus, we had 4 cars with a logistical chance at it this weekend. The 02, 27, 68, and 36 had a logistical chance. And unfortunately, I had some people say, stop being so hard on Chris Wright. Well, with all due respect to Chris Wright, the Brandon Built Motorsports 68 car was 17th in points when he took over the ride. Unfortunately, that car is now out of the top 20. And the biggest problem for that is they lose that extra $80,000. And for a lot of teams, that's a big deal. $80,000, man, is a lot of money to those Xfinity teams. That's a lot of tires. That's a lot of, hotel bills. That's a lot of food bills. And can Jesse Iwuji run for Rookie of the Year next year? I think Jesse's just run so many races. I think he's run well over 30 Xfinity races. I don't think he can run for Rookie of the Year. But going back to that, the 68 team, I like Chris Wright, but he crashed so much this season. And even when he didn't crash, he didn't run very well. And the 68 team fell out of the top 20. I think that's a disappointment. We heard that Brandon Brown will not return to that car next year. And has there even been any confirmation if the 68 team will even return next year? We are currently unsure of that, but it's kind of surprising to see that 68 team fall as much as they did in this season. The other car that didn't make it was a valiant effort, by the way, as well by that team. The 36 of DGM Racing managed to get a top 15 finish. They brought the best fight they could, but they just weren't going to outrun enough to get into that top 20. Our Motorsports was able to secure 17th, 19th, and 20th, getting the last 2 spots. So even though Our Motorsports might not have all 3 cars next season, still a big get for them to get all 3 cars and get that bonus. You think about that, 3 cars, $80,000, that's $240,000 extra money coming into that organization. So at least for some terms, they may not have made the championship, but at least they got that bonus to the point where maybe the financial will be a lot better, and maybe some Our Motorsports guys can get some good Christmas bonuses. And of course, on the driver's side, not much of a battle. All Bailey Curry had to do was gain 6 points to pass Brett Moffitt in points, and he did exactly that. And Bailey Curry made himself $80,000 richer because as the top 20, no matter how many races you've attempted, the top 20 does get $80,000. So that was the Xfinity Series. What will we see different in 2023? I'm not sure, really. Some people in the chat, I feel bad for the MBM 66. You know what? I love Carl. I absolutely love Carl, but we've kind of seen this a lot. The first half of the season for MBM goes very well. They have some great runs, are very competitive in the mid-pack of the field, but a lot of the times what we will see is, and I've noticed this last year for sure. I noticed this last year, and I kind of noticed the same thing this season. Around mid-season to the end, they start to fall off a little bit. And, towards the end of the season, it's just bad luck when it comes to maybe just bad engines or bad equipment because, maybe they just go through the best supply they can. And even then, J.J. Aley was doing very well for what he was given. He was running top 20 at Vegas and then an engine failure. He qualified top 15 at Homestead, early crash. There's just nothing he could do. They couldn't build any good momentum. Even when they were running good, engine failures. And that's just kind of it's not necessarily an issue with MBM, but it's kind of been the thing that has plagued MBM their entire existence is just engine issues. And you can't help that. It's just a product of, trying to run old engines and get the most out of them. I do hope JJ is back with that team next year. I think it's a perfect partnership. I love JJ Aley. I'm probably one of the last JJ Aley fans you'll find. Big advocate for him. Obviously, Carl, he's one of my all-time favorites. I've worked for him. More than likely will continue to work for him. But even if you work for him, you still got to be honest and realize that, the team is not perfect. For next season, it'll be interesting to see where a lot of these teams go next year. We know Emerling Gase Motorsports will run 2 full-time cars. I don't even know if we don't know if the 68 team is going to return. Our Motorsports is expected to downsize their cars. Jesse Uji Motorsports, they might run a second car. Johnny Davis is expected to move up to 3 cars. The Bassett's will continue a part-time schedule. SS Greenlight's expected to continue with 2 cars. BJ McLeod's right now is at 1 car. But yeah, you talk about 2 series. While the Cup Series might not see many changes in 2023, we have quite a few driver changes as well, but not as many as the Xfinity Series. I honestly feel like the Xfinity Series and Truck Series will look just so different. It'll be amazing almost of how different they will both look. Now, I would say the reason why we see Emerling Gase Motorsports running a second car, the only thing I can believe that would get them to run a second car is having 1 full-time driver in one, and then having the second car be what it was this season, a rotation of drivers like Patrick, Joey, and other specific funded drivers like a Jeffrey Earnhardt as well. I could see that happening as well. More than likely, I guess they would have number 53 because that's kind of been their second number anyway, but it's good to see Emerling Gase expanding. I would absolutely can't wait to hear who's going to be in that 35 car next season for sure. I agree. I think Curry doesn't get enough exposure for Johnny Davis. He has really ran very well for that organization. I think Bailey is kind of like a Stephon Parsons. Bailey was just getting the most out of those Mike Harmon cars, but they kept breaking. And, he went over to JD Motorsports, took a chance on himself, and look what he did. He got that 15 car back when they ran the 15 car. He got that 15 car top 20 finishes. He did a great job. But I agree. I think Bailey deserves more recognition. But yeah, our Motorsports expected to downsize with the 27 team losing their driver, Jeb Burton, and the sponsorship. I don't know where they would find another driver. And personally, I think it would be better for that organization to drop the 27 organization altogether and just run maybe if Anthony wants to return, just run 2 cars. Run the 23 full-time and then run the 02 with a rotation of drivers. DGM Racing, not sure what their outlet is going to look like. I could see them being at Daytona with 4 cars again, and maybe only about 2 running the whole season. Daytona, I expect to be also with the Truck Series. I expect Daytona to have probably almost close to 50 cars. A lot of teams are expected for Daytona. It would not shock me if we see close to 50. show up. So, when I say owner points are crucial, owner points are definitely crucial because Daytona really sets the standard of how your season is going to go for a lot of these lower budget teams. But yeah, other changes. Is Mike Snyder expected to return to 31? I haven't really seen any reports on that. Not sure how many teams RSS will run this year. I will definitely say, the 39 team ran very, very well this season. I almost feel like, I don't know if you guys will agree. We got Timmy Hill in the chat, and EJ O'Rourke. How about that? Cool to see them. Cool. Oh no, that Haley pick? No, that's my dad. That's my dad. He got that in 2019. 2019. So yeah, that's my dad. This is his office, and that's the fluorescent orange Dodge, and that's the Chad Fincham's 2017 door. But yeah, I've definitely heard close to 50 Xfinity entries from a couple of friends. Maybe close to 47 around that time. Yeah, I know, EJ, a wrecked Chad car, but that was I think that was the last time Carl ran a Chevy on a non-plate track. But yeah, I really hope Parker Retzlaff goes full time. Yes, I could agree with that. Parker Retzlaff going full time. I would definitely love to see that. Parker did an absolutely admirable job in the 38 for RSS Racing. I kind of hate that partnership dissolved because I think it was a good fit. It was awesome hearing, Dale Jr. give out that praise to Parker Retzlaff on commentary. And even when Parker drove the 0-2, I just don't think he was able to get the same that he was able to get to that equipment the first time. But going back to RSS, I don't know. The 39 car was great. They did a great season, but the 38 car, I almost feel like is holding back the organization. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but at the same time, I just feel like the 38 car really didn't do the team any favors this season. What a couple of good runs. With all due respect, CJ's just slow. CJ McLaughlin is just slow. And I love Kyle Sieg. The improvement I've seen, definitely an improvement in the team, but at the same time, I just don't feel like we're seeing enough improvement to the point where he's ready to move up full time. The 28 car, I don't know. The 28 car, I always felt like it held back the organization as well. We'll just have to see where RSS goes next season. We'll just have to see. But at the same time, it'll be great to see where that team goes next season. Like I said, just a lot of entries for Daytona, a lot of entries for the Xfinity season next year. And yeah, I think we're definitely close to 50 cars for Daytona based off of part-time organizations, based off of everything else. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I've heard numbers floating around as much as 50 or as low as 46. I definitely think we're just going to see a lot. Daytona always brings out the best in a lot of these part-time organizations. For sure. 51 if you start. Yeah, EJ, if we start a team, it'll be 51. I mean, I'll be in Daytona, so if you want to start one, let's do it. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the Xfinity series for this season. Definitely changes for that season. Obviously, we all love the organization, the series as a whole and the organizations as a whole. And I'm sure 2023 Xfinity will just be as entertaining as the last 5 years have been. So then we move on to the Cup Series battles. I will say not much really happened. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of having the Cup race at Phoenix. I still feel like I think we can all agree. Who is my favorite MBM driver? Oh, of course it's Timmy Hill. Of course it's Timmy Hill. I don't think there's any question about that. Not just because I work for him part-time, but definitely Timmy Hill. Yeah, definitely Timmy Hill. The Cup Series I thought was okay. Wasn't necessarily the best race. Kind of a lot of people agree with that. The Backmarkers, I will say, it is so much fun listening to the 78 of BJ McLeod's radio. Literally, the way that him and Lee Leslie talk to each other, it's so funny. They talk to each other so calm, cool, and collected, like they're just at a dinner together. I love the way they speak to each other. And Lee is such a cool guy. I mean, he's got to be in his mid 60s now. Leslie's been around for so long this season. Yeah, I know Live Fast hasn't been the best this season, but I think they're the only team that are still building their own engines. BJ told me that back at Kansas, so it's understandable. Even Rick Ware Racing has received support from Ford that I don't think BJ has. So it is a little understandable maybe why Live Fast has not been as fast, but I think they will definitely get faster next year for sure. And Lee is the best. Lee, unless he's like super, super busy, Lee will always have time to talk to fans. I think, you talk about drivers that always have time for fans. I don't think I've met a guy like Lee who will always, if he sees a fan that's maybe looking at his cars, he'll go over there and he'll literally just, he'll tell him things about the car. Like Lee is a cool guy. He's been in ARCA. He's been in ARCA, Trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup Series. He's owned his own teams. And being able to listen to that team all day, it's just so cool how they play the day. BJ did struggle in the race as well with no breaks from time to time as well, so that probably had to suck a little bit. The other lower budget teams, the 15 of Garrett Smithley was pretty much just slow all weekend. They were slow the entire race. I don't really know why. It looked like they were also running the same car from the previous week. It's still the same Jacob Company sponsorship. Cody Ware did a pretty decent job for what the Rick Ware car was capable of. I would say the people are still critical on Cody Ware for sure, but I would definitely say you can't deny that Cody has improved tremendously on track from 2021 to 2022. I know he's still not perfect out there, but I have to admit, I have seen the progression and I've seen the aggression in the car. Not just taking care of it every week, but actually going up there and fighting other cars for position. Watching him at Martinsville really get up there and try to contend with, some of the higher budget teams that he just wouldn't compete with on a weekly basis. So I think Cody Ware is definitely improved for next season, and I'm kind of curious to see where Rick Ware is going to go next season as well. No real other backmarkers did very good, I would say. Even Front Row Motorsports didn't do very good, 25th and 29th. Career season for Michael McDowell, even though Michael McDowell and just had a career season. Average finish inside the top 20 for the first time in his Cup Series career. No wins, of course, but over 10 top 10s, laps led. Just an amazing season for that organization that originally was rumored not even to be around this season. Front Row Motorsports was rumored to not even be around this year. And I'll even say for his rookie year, Todd Gilliland also did an admirable job in that 38 car. So everyone at Front Row Motorsports should be extremely proud of themselves. And I'm eager to see how they will both perform next season. But yeah, no real backmarkers shined here. Also a rough year for the 47 team of Ricky Stenhouse. Landon Castle's team had a crash. Kind of a rough way to end the year for Spire Motorsports in the 77 with two crashes. The two battles that we wanted to focus on here were the top 25 Cup bonus battle. That is estimated to be around $1 million. The biggest storyline last year was the 37 team of JTG last year, unchartered, going after that $1 million bonus. But despite the best efforts of Colleague Racing, despite a top 15 finish, they couldn't climb high enough, even though the 6 car did have another fire issue. The 6 car managed to hold on to that top 25 bonus. And unfortunately, the notable teams that will miss out on the $1 million bonus is the 16 of Colleague, the 41 of Stuart Haas, the 47 of JTG, and the 21 of the Wood Brothers, and the 42 of Petty GMS. The other talked about is the top 33 charter battle. The 7 Spire Motorsports car did finish inside the top 33, so therefore that has been reset. The 3-year clock has been reset. And with the 15 car finishing outside the top 33, this means that going into 2023, the 15 car will have its last year as a charter. Unless they can finish inside the top 33, NASCAR will repossess the 15's charter at the end of 2023 unless Rick Ware sells it to another team. And that charter could be where a lot of those teams are looking at maybe to expand their teams. EJ are working the chat. Is that a bass? Personally, I don't know. Again, this is my dad's office that I do this podcast out of. I personally don't know. My dad's the expert fisherman, but that is a replica of a fish he caught, I don't know, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, he caught that. And whenever my dad, side note, whenever my dad catches a big fish, that's not the actual fish. He likes to get a replica one made. And I think that's kind of cool. I think it's kind of a fun backdrop for my shows. Having sheet metal and then a giant fish behind me. I know we need a full studio. I can't afford it. I can't afford that right now. Yes, I do agree. Rick Ware does need a full-time driver in that 15, but it's kind of rotation that we've seen from Rick Ware's Cup team from the start. You know, they just need I feel like they actually have a good thing going right now. You know, the 15 has multiple drivers in it. You know, they're making their money that they need to make. And, you know, the 51 is doing just fine themselves. But, you know, like I said, that 15 is in danger. The 15 is definitely in danger for next season. If they don't get inside the top 33, either they have to sell their charter or it will be repossessed by NASCAR. So that'll be the big talking point going into next season for sure. And a lot of changes, you know, in the drivers. You know, we got Kyle Busch to RCR, Reddick to 2311, Ty Dillon to Spire 77, Noah Gragson to Petty 42, Jimmy Johnson back in an open car. Who the heck saw that coming? The Daytona 500 next year, I think the great news is right now, Daytona 500 next year is looking at well over 40 cars. So we have no worries that the Daytona 500 will have DNQs next year. And that'll mean that the duels will be pretty entertaining for sure. But yeah, notable drivers I can see returning to the 15 next season. Yaley, of course, Joey Hand at the road courses, and probably Garrett Smithley for a couple races. And I think that'll pretty much take up the whole year. That's kind of how it was this year. I think it was just Yaley, Smithley, and Joey Hand that drove the majority of I think they were the only 3 drivers in the 15 this season. Maybe outside of one race that I'm forgetting. But yeah, that's definitely going to be the big underdog storyline going into next season. Will the 15 car be able to go quick enough to be able to get inside that top 33? And for anyone talking about the situation, Reagan, yes, Reagan on the plate tracks and Priest. I forgot, man. I should have thought about that more. BJ's team, if anyone wondering about the 78 Live Fast car, that car did finish in the top 33 last year. So this is actually their first year finishing outside the top 33. So yes, that means the 78 team would have 2 more years left in the Cup Series before their charter maybe would have a chance at getting repossessed or sold. So obviously for the 15 and 78 bunches, speed improvement is definitely key next season. And wow, so those are the back markers, and I'm happy to say that is concluded this year's season of Backmarker Battles. I know we didn't go full time, but you know, throughout the summer, we were just kind of just more of the show, wanted to save it for the end of the year. But I'm happy to say that we will try our best on the show to do Backmarker Battles every single week we can next year. But as of now, this is the last Backmarker Battles of the season. No real need to do one if there's no racing going on. This podcast for Backmarker Battles, at least, will return following the Speed Week weekend. So, I thank everybody for tuning in to tonight's episode. We're at 54 minutes, so dang, I need to get something to eat and I need to get some water. And you guys have a great rest of your Thursday nights. I thank you again for tuning into my channel here. Again, like and subscribe for more great podcast content. And yeah, I'll see you guys couple more times this year. We got some ARCA guests coming on the show, maybe some NASCAR guests coming on the show. But as on a full-time basis, we will see most of it, if not all of you guys, hopefully in 2023. So Till then, have a great rest of your Thursday night. I've been Colby Evans, starting Park Car, and I'm signing off. So long, guys.